Hi, Pretty Little Lifters. Welcome back to the Pretty Little Lifters podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ashli Pollard. Ashli is an entrepreneur and founder of Dial Zero Marketing, Fast Forward, Team AP Consulting, the Doers Membership, Cocky Ventures. She created Me Time, which is the morning routine kit, and hosts the podcast, The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. Definitely check it out. Ashli and I met through a mutual friend, and I started following her on Instagram, and I was loving her business content that she was posting. I ended up taking one of her courses and learned so much and connected with so many amazing women that have helped me with the Pretty Little Lifters brand. Ashli is bold, confident, ambitious, and smart, and I love seeing her grow her businesses and lift other women up in the process. Welcome to the podcast, Ashli.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I need everyone to know, this episode will be 2 weeks after, but Ashli is an Aries queen. Her birthday is coming up. So we are just being graced with her presence. I love Aries, and their fiery energies.
I am such an Aries too. I'm an Aries, Pisces, which if you know anything about horoscopes is a rough, top three, big three, just because Pisces are soft and kind of sad and feelings people. And then Aries are shut up, get out of my way. You know what I mean? It's just the two are battling all the time where I'm inside, I'm I love you and I want to hug you. And outside, I'm literally stop talking. No, I'm kidding. But it's it's so funny.
I love it. I love it. I love when it's Aries season and all the stuff I see on social media. I'm just oh my God, I'm living for it. It is just too fun. Yeah. And I'm only because I know the Aries in my life. And I'm yes, this is them. I love this.
That's Aries. It's all heightened.
Yep. Totally. So for our listeners, can you give us a little intro on what you are currently up to right now, personally, professionally, what's going on? What's the tea?
Yeah, I'm a busy bee. So I run 5 businesses like a crazy person. But to be fair, my team is actually the people running the businesses. I am not in every single one of them. So I have Fast Forward Production, which is a podcast production and YouTube production company. I have Team AP Consulting, which will soon be changing names away from Team AP Consulting into the Doers, because that is our membership is the Doers. It's a membership of entrepreneurs. It's incredible. It's everybody's so lovely and kind and giving with their information. It's just a really beautiful spot. And then I have Dial Zero Marketing, which is our marketing agency. That's where my, full-time team lives, and we serve everyone from celebrities all the way down to startups. On social media, packaging, branding, website design, you name it. And then Cocky Ventures, which is kind of the holding company for all of them, but that's where I take equity in businesses and take a % off the top and help grow them. And then I have Me Time, which is my product-based business, which is a little bit on hold because we're rebranding, but it's a morning routine journal and eucalyptus oil and affirmation cards. It's just a nice little reset. So I'm busy, but I have teams that handle it. Don't worry about my mental health. Everybody's always are you okay? Take time for yourself. And I'm I'm the queen of taking time for myself. You don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
Everything is running fine. I don't have a ton of control, freak tendencies. So, I just kind of rely on the team to let them do their jobs, and everything's working great.
I love that. You are a busy bee, but you mentioned one thing that I love is you do take time for yourself. And I love seeing when you're with your nephew, because my me time is with my nieces now. And I'm just it's just the best. So I love seeing somebody who is so busy professionally, but makes the time to do that stuff for themselves. Actually, speaking of me time, right here next to me, I have...
He's off.
I mean, I feel we should pull a little, because they're
pull
here.
An information card.
Let's do it. Okay, so it says, today I let go of my need for approval and I love myself as I am. Here for it.
I love that. Considering I definitely took action today that I was people are not going to be happy with that one. That was probably the right card for me today, so I appreciate that.
This is perfect. Yes, I love this. I have this on my coffee table. These are Ashley's cards, and every now and then I'm just like, what do I need today? And it brings me joy. Um,
I love
so
that.
to give
Thank
everyone
you.
some,
Yay.
yeah, to give everyone some background, I mentioned this in the intro, but I came across you through our mutual friend Sam. And I remember at the start of the pandemic, she was like, my friend Ashley, she has this business course, and she is that she was taking with you. And I remember like looking at your stuff, and I loved that you were focused on helping women thrive in business with affordable resources. That was like the thing for me that was really, really cool. And share how did this start? Because I know you started in fashion. And why is this mission so important to you?
Yeah, so the thing is I had an 11-year career in New York in the fashion industry, and I worked for very recognizable names. I worked for Prada, Gucci, Oscar de la Renta, Sam Edelman, Rebecca Minkoff, Hunter Boots. I helped Kendall and Kylie start a business. Like I was really, really embedded in the fashion industry and built a name for myself as someone who was a strong business developer. So a lot of what I did was build new divisions of existing businesses. And so a lot of doing that is entrepreneurship, you know, it's building the budget, it's building the branding, it's building the ethos, it's building the marketing strategy, the product, the pricing, a lot of market research. And I am a math person, and a lot of that role is based in math, based in analytical data and analytical decision making. And that's very much like how I was brought up in the industry. And so then when everything happened in COVID, I was a consultant for Hunter Boots, and I lost my job because consultants are not going to keep their job in a pandemic. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? I started to notice all of the different women that I knew who were entrepreneurs or had strong side hustles. Their businesses were falling apart. And I connected that it had to have been because of the lack of understanding about big business. And I had just come from big business where I have all of these Excel spreadsheets, all these strategies, all these like ways to think about pricing and connection and community building, where I was like, I have all of this. How can I give this to you? And so what I did, a lot of people have, a lot of people could have just like dumbed it down, but what I really wanted to do was educate on like how to think about strategy. So I took a lot of these and put them into Excel spreadsheets, turned them into trainings, turned them into Canva documents. I really try to talk to a smart and creative entrepreneur who does want a work-life balance. And so that really blew up. I was doing group programs. I had a podcast that I still have, Unfiltered Entrepreneur. And I was just scaling the business. And that landed us where we are now, where we've had the Doers Club, which is our membership. We also have the Doers Library if you just want the portal. And we've been doing that for about 2 years. And that membership and subscription model has been super strong, especially because our focus is that we'll never sell anything for over $197. And so in the Team AP space, so, in that Doers space, we are very much trying to break the notion that you need a $10,000 coach or, to spend $7,500 a month or $3,500 a month. There's people out there saying, take out a credit card or take out a loan to pay for me. And I'm thinking, I would rather teach you, teach a man to fish. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would rather have you understand this strategy so that when you're leaning on people, you're leaning on them for things you need, not things that make you feel less scared. We're all scared. How can we take action with analytical strategy behind us that I've made really tangible and really easy to understand, like a fourth grader could do it? So that's really where Team AP kind of like took off. And I was running this business alone, making, 80 grand a month. And I thought, I could easily be the person that just works 2 days a month and calls it a day and rakes in the money, and probably should have looking. But to your point, I'm an Aries, and I was like, I'm going to build other businesses, So
Yeah.
one of them was, I got so much, recognition, I would say, from people in, not even like recognition. That sounds like I was like revered. I actually was not. But I had so many people watching me from my fashion experience who were like, you clearly have an eye for marketing. We know you as a business developer. Can you do the marketing for our client? And she has a $15,000 budget. So now I'm like, that can't be in the same world. I can't say
Yeah.
197 or less or 15 grand a month. And I have no problem taking 15 grand a month from an investor. I have every problem taking 15 grand from a mother. Okay. So
Yes.
I decided to launch Dial Zero marketing, bring on a team, and build a business to sell. So the whole point of Dial Zero marketing is that we exit with a few $1,000,000 in a year or two, and we're going to hit that mark. So I'm really excited about that. It's not a business I'm passionate about, but it will give me enough money to do the things that I want to do. And so people might think that's crazy. You're going to work for 3 years to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't see it any different than real estate. I'm pouring money into an asset, pouring time into an asset just to flip it when the market's right and take that money and do something I love. So that's kind of like been the past and kind of like where we're going in the future a bit.
Yeah, no, you brought up something that really came apparent to me. So when I started Pretty Little Lifters, it was more like, okay, this is just for fun. We're just kind of like doing it for fun. And after working with you, and this is when you had Square One Accelerator, and this was like the
Yeah.
first business course that I took. And it's interesting because there was a time before that I did want to take a business course. Like, I'm a teacher. I know nothing of this world. Like, this was me just like trying to figure it out. And I would look into like fitness coaches and like different coaches. And it was like $15,000. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, one, how do
Like,
I know your
man.
methods? Or how is it going to
Yeah.
work? Like, and on a teacher's salary, I was like, this is a lot. So like, it really also opened my eyes to like authenticity and just like, also just like how crazy the online market is right now. Like, we've talked about that before, where it's like, wow,
Yeah.
people really just go for it and really try to charge the most. And I get it. Like, everyone's time is worth it. But like, I think you've mentioned this too. And it's like, remember like MLMs? It's like almost like there's like an
Yeah.
MLM version of like the online world now of like digital marketing and stuff. So it was just really interesting and
There it is.
refreshing to see you have content that I was like, wait a minute, I could actually afford this. Like, she wants me to win.
I just don't think that it is. I don't think that you can be a business owner who says that you care about your community if you're making $2.5 million and nobody is getting anything out of what you're doing. That is just a
Yeah.
cash grab, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, like, I don't take a ton of money from the business. I actually I have a podcast about how much money I pay myself, and it's abysmal. Like, it's horrific how little I pay myself. Everyone in my space makes more money than I do. And to me, that is not me being a martyr. I win later. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to build something that takes a lot of time. For me to make good money on a $97 average, I need thousands of people in this space. And there's going to come a time that I get that payback, right? But I don't want to make the money now and become a millionaire and screw all these people over. Like, that does not feel fun to me, and that doesn't feel like success. To me,
Yeah.
I really feel like, I had this really terrible car accident in 2017, and I think after that car accident, I had this kind of like, if I'm going to be here and have the second chance, then I want to do something so meaningful. And it's completely changed the goalposts to me. And to be able to connect with these women and for them to say, like, I was making 50 grand a year with my web design business, and now I'm making 250,000, or I'm making 800,000, or I'm making 100,000
Yeah.
or 70,000, like, and like anything more is just really so touching. And to me, like, that's more money than I'm making for myself. Like, that's more money than I'm taking home. And to me, that's a win. I have my
Yeah.
money on its way to me. It may not be here today, but I have my money. It is not in my bank today. It is coming. She's en
Yeah.
route, but I'm building, and I want to be building something that is so grounded in ethics that it's palpable, right?
Yeah. No, and I like that you mentioned that, because that's kind of how I feel about like fitness too. And like with what I'm doing, it's
Sure.
like, yeah, I could, you know, I'm going to be going back to like the Square One stuff soon, now that I'm going to be like building out a couple things. And I'm like, yeah, like I really do want this to be accessible to people, like the things that I have access
Mm-hmm.
to. And because that's like my whole mission
Totally.
is like, I want this to be accessible. So me charging an arm and a leg when I want this to be accessible and want more people lifting and stuff, it's like, I really do have to put that, into consideration. So
Yeah, yeah.
I was teaching something to my students the other day, and I said something and I was like, ooh, this is an Ashley-ism. I was like, this is an Ashley-ism. And I remember you saying it's not hard, it's new. And
Yeah,
I
that's
just love that
literally, I'm going
mindset.
to
And
show you. It's literally the background of my phone.
yes. Oh my
So
God, yes.
I'm getting it trademarked. That's like my
As you should.
slogan,
I
that's
love
like
it.
this the thing I created, and
Yeah.
that's definitely the
Tell
slogan of the
me.
community space. So I'm glad that stayed with you.
Yeah, no, tell us because I'm really big on mindset, mental health. And I think that really does help with like growth mindset and being open to things and trying new things and being a beginner. So, like, where did this come from? Why is it so important to you? And how has it helped you?
It's so funny because it started with me like kind of being annoyed where so many people were like, I can't put like Instagram is so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. And I was like, there's nothing hard about Instagram. Like cardiac surgeons have a hard job. NASA is hard. Like quantum mechanics is
Yeah.
hard. Like running ultra marathon is hard. But like just because it's new does not mean it's hard. And I do think that in your brain, telling yourself that something is hard is telling yourself you can't do it. Telling yourself that
Hmm.
something is new is telling yourself, I will get this. Right. So it's almost like having your back a little bit. It's a little bit of like self support. It's a little bit of thinking about something as I will master this, not I could never. And so
Yeah.
that is just something that I used to repeat to people all the time. Like, you can't say this is hard. Website design is not hard. It's new to you. And that does not mean that that's not hard. I'm not going to dismiss the fact that like doing
Yeah.
new things is a challenge and is difficult and can mess with your head, can take time. You might have to redo things over and over and over again, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I'm not going to dismiss that. That's true. Right. But I do think that it is a bit more self supportive to say that something is just new. I will get this.
Yeah. No, and I love that too because like one of our things at our school is like growth mindset. And I remember even like when I started lifting and like doing only lifts in the gym, I would always be like, this is so hard. I'm not good at that. And somebody would be like, you're just like, it's hard now. Or like, you're learning, like having that
Yeah.
growth mindset, like you'll get there, like you don't know how to do
Yeah.
it yet. And I think it just
Hmm.
falls into that
I'm sure
category.
that
And
when I was a baby, walking was hard. Okay. I'm sure that when we were kids, riding a bike was hard. I'm sure when we were 16, driving was hard, but like it was just new?
Yeah, 100%. I know. I totally remember being a teenager learning, and like it was before I started practicing how to drive. And I'm like, how do people do this? Like, how do my
I
parents do
know.
this? How are they not crashing?
I know. I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't driven in over 10 years and I don't have a license anymore because mine expired and I like never got it re-up. And I'm
Yeah. And
like,
you were in
the
New
fact that
York.
I'm
So,
like, right, I was in New York, yeah, for 11 years. But I'm going to take the test this year and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like such an idiot. Like, I had a license fully for like 4.5 years. How do I just like
yeah.
not know how to drive anymore? It's so funny, but it's not hard, it's new.
Yeah. You just got to like grease the wheels again, get back out there. Yeah. No, that's
Exactly.
amazing.
Exactly.
So you mentioned you have a lot of insight into marketing and brands, and I've seen you post about how like nothing is on accident when it comes to like marketing. And I teach my students and women that we need to be critical consumers, especially in like the health and fitness
Yes.
industry with like all the noise that is out there. And I love your transparency about like all things business and marketing. I mean, you even named your podcast the Unfiltered Entrepreneur for a reason because like you're literally giving unfiltered information. So let's chat
Yeah.
about like how this pertains to health and fitness brands so people are aware of
Mhm.
like how and why they're seeing what they see online and in social media because I don't like we think because maybe we're in it like, oh yeah, people know, they get it. And it's like they don't always know like why they're seeing this like in everybody's post or why they're getting this email. So if you could shed some light, that would be amazing.
I mean, you have to understand that the job of sales and marketing teams is to show only the good stuff. right? People are like, oh, Instagram is a highlight reel. But if you work in a corporate company for a sales and marketing team, that's literally your only job is to share the highlight reel. And I'll give you an example that I always give is that I was working for a fashion brand and I always worked in handbags, which is something important. So like no one is going to be like, oh, I know what brand it was. No, I always worked in handbags. And there was this one handbag that we only made like 20 for Bloomingdale's, let's say, right? And then there was this other one that we made like 10,000 for Bloomingdale's. Well, the one that we made so much of, the sales were abysmal. They were terrible. And then the one that we made very little of, we sold all 20. But like 20 of 10,000 is a lot different than 20 of 20, right? And so what we might say to upper management is, oh my gosh, yeah, that black bag, we sold 1,000 units of that black bag. And this other bag, we sold 100% of the units. Now they're thinking, oh, 1,000 units sounds good. And we're thinking it's 1,000 of 10,000. And they're thinking, wow, 100%. And I'm thinking it's only 20 units, right? So that's just one example. But how does that relate to consumers? That also happens with consumers. And one of the examples that I give, and I want to just put a caveat, I love this brand, but I always call it out. Hippies, the like chickpea, like Cheeto company. I don't know if you like know the company.
Yes.
Hippies has on their marketing on the back of the bag. It is still there at the time of recording this because I had a bag last week because I love the product. It says our chickpeas like use 90% less water than other farms. And I'm like, that is the most misleading marketing I've ever heard in my life. And I called it out on my Instagram, or I called it out in my membership because I was like, let's break down all of the false information here. Our chickpeas farm with less than 90% water than other farms. First thing to consider, chickpeas and cows have different water consumption. So already chickpeas, of course, consume less water than other farms. So that's a bit misleading.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that we also have to consider the fact that our chickpeas makes it sound like you're the only proprietary people who can adopt this method of like, you know, being super sustainable. But the truth is, I bet all people have, anyone who sells anything with chickpeas has 90% less water than other farms. But what they did there was call out, we are 90% less than other farms, not other chickpea farms. They never said that. And they also said our, which is a strong sales and marketing move. If I was on that team, I would be getting rewarded. Like someone got a big pat on the back for that sentence alone. I'm telling you, there was a meeting about that sentence. And what's really fascinating is that a consumer will feel so sustainable for buying those hippies. And they will feel like they're really doing their due diligence. I saved 90% water when the difference is like having hippies versus steak. Right. And so that's just one thing that I like to have people think about is like almost go into everything you're reading with a criticism, not an acceptance, because there really is only the good shared with you. And that is done by design. And you can kind of empathize with why. There's 26-year-olds making those decisions. They report to their boss. In an economy, they're not getting paid. They want to get a raise. So give everything empathy as well, but criticize the why.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good point. And I remember you also mentioning about, like one thing that I remember talking to my students about, and maybe you have some insight is, you know, when magazines or like online things say like the top 10, and then they'll list like moisturizers or whatever, like athletic this, like, yes. And so like one of the things we talked about, it's like, are brands paying to be on this list? And this is where you're purchasing from. So like, so give us the tea on this.
Yeah. They're all paying. If someone's like, no, but I didn't. Okay, cool. Like you gambled. Like that is a lucky draw. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, all of that is paid. And they've done a really good job of like even flipping the script on, you know, getting paid advertisement, let's say, in different media. So for instance, this is like a really under talked about topic, but you and I talk about it, is that like, excuse me, is that if I worked for Team AP Consulting, I'll put my own name on the line. I don't want to throw someone under the bus. Let's say I work for my business, Team AP Consulting, and I want to be considered one of the top memberships in the world. I could sit here and hope and dream that it's me. Like, oh my God, please, I hope I get chosen. It's not happening. It's literally never happening unless I pay for it. And the way that you pay for it is by two ways. One, you invest so much into advertising, and I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars, that the trade-off is you better put me at the top of some lists. You better give me like an op-ed that I write. You better put me on Forbes 30 under 30. Like, that's one way that we could go. Another way that we could go is that has been repurposed by the advertising, sales, affiliate, product pushing industry, is this idea of what they're calling earned media, which basically means that you pay them, but you pay them through a PR agent. So, well, I'm not paying the publication. I didn't buy that Forbes interview, but in reality, I'm paying my press person, my PR agent, 10 grand. She's spending about $3,500 on dinner, birthday gifts, sending special occasion presents, courtside seats, shopping trips to Chanel to get in with that Forbes person, or even sliding them the money under a table to say, put my person on that list. Right. Yeah. And a lot of PR agents will work in these PR agencies where they can devise that whole list to be their clientele. And if you really know PR agencies, if you really know marketing agencies, if you really know new businesses, if you really know investors, the way that I do and the way that I can track things, you can look at a list and say, those are all the same company. They're all represented by the same company. And basically that PR agency can say, make client one number one because they're our highest paying, make client 2 and then client 3, and then client 10 is our lowest paying, but they're still on the roster, so put them at the bottom of the list, make it the top 10. They send it off to a publication. These editors, these writers, some of them are writing, but most of them are so busy and so drowned that they don't have time to write anything anymore because they're carrying too many other responsibilities that aren't technically theirs, that they will take all of this press from PR agencies and publish. And so there's a joint understanding. People are paying us to be on this list. We put a lot of money into you. You better publish everything that we give you. I got published with MeTime in 3 different publications, and I paid a PR agent who is friends with those editors, specifically with those editors. There are some things that are luck. There are some things that happen by luck, but when I was in the fashion industry, every single email that was about the brand that I was working for, every single every single magazine, we would choose how big or small the image would be, and that would decide how much we had to pay for it. Every time it was featured in a photo shoot, every time it was chosen by a blogger, we paid for all of it, and it was part of my budget. And I wish that people understood that, because a lot of times a magazine that you think is just like people's curated ideas is all a game of who has the most money.
Yeah. And that's the wild thing too, is just obviously the lack of transparency, So it's like if somebody's, like you were mentioning, even like articles, like op-eds, and if somebody's getting interviewed, like I've recently seen, some people I know in the fitness industry, popping up, and it's like, oh, they're working with a PR agency, they are working to get their name in there. Like that's kind of how it's happening. And also, for example, I remember
Daddy is a great example. Call Her Daddy is part of CAA. Isn't it kind of funny that all of her guests are also?
I didn't realize they were. Yeah. It's so funny.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because I think I was like noticing recently, I was like, wow, all these celebrities, like all these very probably hard to get talent that, has been on their podcast. But yeah, so
interesting.
Yeah. And so for example, I remember somebody asking me is Athletics Greens, which is a product, good? Because I see it everywhere. Every influencer is using it. It's on all these lists. And I was like, this is marketing.
Yeah. Everything is, you always can tell the trend that's coming next by what is hot today. For instance, all I've seen on major influencers, Lauren Bostic's talked about it. A few other females that I follow talk about it, who are, I would say, like health guru, Gwyneth Paltrow, goopy kind of, are doing this whole carnivore diet. I eat meat, I drink whole milk, and I eat cheese. And I'm like, wow, coming off of veganism. Isn't that so interesting? And so then we're going to have a cycle back in at some point, right? So now we're going to see meats, and we're going to see jerkies, and we're going to see healthy cheeses, and we're going to see all of that happen. right? And then 2 years after that, we're going to see veganism come back in. People are going to say, I don't eat carbs, I don't eat carbs. So then we're going to see salad wraps and salad wraps and salad wraps. And then people are going to be like, no, bread is good, complex carbohydrates. And then we're going to see bread, bread, bread. It's all a circular motion. And the reason for that is because to keep businesses moving forward, you need new offerings, right? And to have
Yeah.
a new offering, then you need to make sure that all of your differentiated products have a time to shine. And a lot of this, I mean, I could go on this forever, but all of this comes back to like the main investors in the market are people who own both ends. And if they're running out of money with one of their supply, they're going to push one of the others. So all the people who invest in energy are also investing in gas. And when gas becomes a hot topic, then they'll make money there. And then they'll see gas start to decline and they'll start talking about energy. And it's just always going to be like that, you know? So by
Yeah.
understanding you and your body and your decisions and what's right for you and your beliefs and your ethos and standing so authentically in that where you can say, I'm going to be vegan because I've chosen to, great. If you're going to be the person who says, I've consulted with a specific set of experts and this is the food I'm eating and this is the kind of movement that I'm doing in my life, great. If some hormone specialist is telling you that she wants you to do a certain thing, amazing. But consulting to anybody who's responsible for a marketing budget, you will lose and you will pretty much always feel like a failure because all they want to
Yeah.
do is make money at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. And honestly,
I
it's like,
literally,
that's
I get
why.
so fired up. I'm like thinking about it.
No, but like, no, this is why like I've really been like cranking up this topic. Like I teach it every year, but like really honing in, like my students are doing like a project on it because I'm just like, no, like I need you to know this because it's so, especially like now that you have like faces and like normal, real people like telling you things and
Yeah.
you think like, oh, this is a trustworthy person. Like, but it's like, oh, but this is sponsored or like somebody gave them that. And like, there's just so many little things and pieces or like, agendas, shall we say. So I think like now more than ever, being a critical consumer is like super important. Yeah.
You also see a lot of people weaponizing mental health in times that they're trying to get out of something. You see people
Mm-hmm.
doing the thing where they say like, I shut my business down because the burnout was so bad. I was so burnt out and I was so unhappy. And you should close your business too if you're like burnt out or unhappy. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She's a millionaire. She's a
Yeah.
millionaire. She can say that. Don't shut down your
Yeah.
business just because you're burnt out because that's part of it. Like that's just part of it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Don't listen to that. I think it's
Yeah.
just critical for all of it. Like I want to believe that everybody is telling the truth and believes in their mission. And I think that is woven into most things. And brands that stand the test of time are people who have proven that mission over and over and over again. And I do believe that. And we see that. We see that so frequently. We also see that not work out the best way with Outdoor Voices being an example. Outdoor Voices just
Yeah.
shut down all their locations. And a big part of that is because Tyler Haney, who was running it, asked for $1 billion of an investment, but didn't know how to spend the money. And she got kicked out. And Outdoor Voices didn't have a soul. It didn't have an ethos. It didn't have a reason. It wasn't really standing for anything. And the Aloe
Yeah.
Yogos of the world, the Lulus of the world kind of moved in and there wasn't space anymore. And so
Yeah.
what I always try to say is like, try to read through the lines. Hippies is a great example. I still support them. I still love the business. And I do see efforts that the business is making holistically that I do find authentic and genuine and honest. Just because I think that sentence and that part of their packaging is a huge lie does not necessarily mean that I'm not going to support the business or that I think that they're terrible. At the end of the day, if we wanted to nitpick products, we would not have anything to buy anymore. And that is
Yeah.
just the truth. And so all I really want people to do is to go into your point, which is a little bit of critical thinking and think about like, what is the goal of what they're trying to say here? And can you find any trigger words that you could find to be questionable, misleading, embellished? Can you fact check? Are they giving you the facts up front and a place to fact check? If they're not giving you the source, that's probably a red flag. And are they connected, especially with food, to some sort of alliance that's third party and private that says we will give you a stamp that shows that it went through our metrics of quality and et cetera, et cetera. So there are ways to really suss out the bad eggs and the good eggs, but it takes some time and it takes some really due
Yeah.
diligence.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna love this. So, sometimes we get as teachers like stuff sent to you at the school, and since I'm like the
Yeah.
PE and health teacher, I got this package from. It was sponsored by the dairy industry. And I was looking at it,
Oh,
I'm like, oh, what is this? And it was like this packet of this interactive, like little workbook packet for students to learn about like milk and this and just like healthy habits and all this stuff. But the whole marketing, and I will have to post this in my Instagram stories, the whole marketing of the book was, it was like a carton of milk. And then it was like, everyone's trying to be us. And it was like, octopus milk, like basically saying all these different types of
yeah, like
milks are
oat
being built,
milk.
but
Yeah.
we're the OG, like we're the OG. And so I was looking, I was like, who sponsored this? So I did some digging. I looked through the thing. I found the production company. And then I saw that the dairy company paid them to like create this workbook that was supposed to be a healthy thing for kids. And I was like, this is an ad.
Yeah, it's
And it
an
was
ad.
literally like I'm being sent an ad right now. So like I'm actually going to use it in one of my lessons and like give it to the students and being
Mhm.
like, let's look at this and dig deep, because this is literally an ad for milk, and trying to say like, one of the questions was even like, what do you do to feel original and to be unique? And like basically saying like, we're original milk. I was like, stop.
Wow. You can always find a lobby with some of that stuff too. Like who's the person who's like trying to it's so unbelievable. It really is. And I also think that there's also a level of like aspiration involved in this movement that people have to be mindful of when they're critical thinking. For instance, let's take Lauren Bostic. I don't have a personal problem with Lauren Bostic. I'm not trying to drag the girl. A lot of people find her aspirational. They say, I want to be as pretty as her. I want to look like her. I want to have a husband like hers. I want to have a business like hers. I'm not saying any of that shit. Fine, to each their own. But I know a lot of people find her aspirational, right? And so if she says, I eat a diet of milk and eggs and cheese, then there can be a misconception of, if I do those things, my skin will be clear like hers. And the truth is, your genomes are different. Your
Yeah.
DNA is different. Your bodies are different. And so I also think a bit of that is unwinding the things you don't have and being okay with that, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
okay with, this is what my life looks like. This is what my body looks like. This is what my hair looks like. This is my insecurity. This is what my natural tendency is. Maybe I'm extroverted. Is that okay? Maybe I'm introverted. Is that okay? And saying, I really want to be this person. And it's like, well, one, can you embody some of those qualities? And two, what if you're not? Can you find a way to love who you are and be somebody that someone else looks up to? Right.
Yeah.
And not even that pressure. Can you just like yourself? Because there is a
Yeah.
little bit of like, maybe I'll have a mansion if I do that. And it may not be in your brain that obviously, but subconsciously, there are things where it's like, I want to be skinny like her because people think she's cool and I want to be thought of as cool. Or
Yeah.
people
Mm-hmm.
like, if I get skinnier, I will get a better job. Or if I get skinnier, my husband will like not cheat on me. And if I am skinnier, then my girlfriend will propose or whatever it is. Right. So I want to be mindful also that we're talking about the fact that like a lot of this comes down to self-acceptance, and that doesn't mean stop working on yourself. That doesn't mean don't dream big. All of that is perfectly fine, but there has to be a level of like, do I know who I am and am I okay in that?
Yeah, this is actually a perfect segue into the next thing I wanted to chat with you about. So, one of my favorite things about you is your confidence. I think you are one of the most confident people that I know,
Oh God.
and I adore it. No, I adore it. But I want to know, like, what helps you take up space and use your voice and show up authentically? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Couple things. I think that age has something to do with it. I'm turning 36 literally in a couple days. I do think that's part of it. I think that you try to impress people for so long and it never works, that you just grow old with it and you're like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I can't dismiss that as part of it. I also think that I've had a really strong group of mentors through my life who have always been like, I don't know if I can curse on here, like, I don't give an F type of women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've always been like that. Working at Rebecca Minkoff, like, not to put her on blast, she did a lot very, very well, but she was open about mistakes she made and things she wishes she did differently, and guys, I messed up, or like, can we do this, or whatever it was, right? And so to see somebody quote unquote in power who has their name on the door and their name on the back of the label and whatever it is, to see them make mistakes, I think, working in a big industry with close to big names and seeing mistakes and seeing them react to them, you just kind of notice that everyone does it, which I think helped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is really on a pedestal. We work with a ton of celebrities, and I know that they're going to have insecurities, and I know that they're going to be messy, and I know that they're not a buttoned up, perfect human just because they're successful. So I do think a level of it is also exposure, where, if I am quote unquote perfect, I still won't have everything. I'm still going to have stuff. I'm still going to have insecurities. So for me, I think there's also a little bit of like seeing that in other people in real time. And then also like to kind of bring it back, like that car accident really changed me. And I think like
Mm-hmm.
every day is a day that I should not be here. And I just kind of adopted a mindset little by little every single day, because I truly believe what you do in a day creates a habit for how you're going to do it tomorrow. And right after that car accident, I was like, I am never going to be mean to myself again. Not once. And that's not to say that I haven't, but it's hard to find those moments. If I make a mistake, my first thing is, I wonder how I can avoid that again. And it's never like, am I going to ruin that relationship? I have every faith in my ability to keep relationships. I have every faith in my ability to communicate. I have every faith in my ability to fix a situation. And if a situation isn't fixable, then we learn from it and we move on. I can't change the past. I can't change much. So a lot of it is truly
Mm-hmm.
just like radical acceptance. And I don't
Yeah.
have the time to hate myself. If I feel like the world hates me or society hates me, that's one thing, but I cannot be a part of it. I have to be the one who
Yeah.
cares about myself the most.
I love that. I love that. And I think I think when you mention like radical acceptance, I think that is like really key, you know?
I
Um,
mean, I think it's the big question to kind of put yourself through the ringer is like, what actually happens?
mhm.
For instance, like we're doing this podcast. I had a really long day of meetings. I had a 2.5 hour call right before this. And I like to get dolled up for my podcast interviews. You know what I mean? I have no makeup on. My hair is like kind of oily from yesterday. I'm wearing a sweatshirt and an oversized like dude's t-shirt. Like this is not my best self. And there was a moment where I was like, oh man, I wish I could have like gotten nice for Tiffany's interview. But that's the end of it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to do this thing where I'm like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm such a bum, or people are going to think I'm so ugly, or people are going to think she's going to think I don't care about her. I'm not going to think any of that stuff, because what I'm going to think is what actually happens. Truly.
Mhm.
Like, I would
Yeah.
hope that if you were like, actually, you could have looked nice for the podcast, that like maybe we're not the right friends then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that what
Totally.
actually happened. Two, what actually happens if people think that, then you haven't listened to anything I've said, because I'm way more
Yeah.
impressive than the t-shirt I'm wearing today. So for me, it's like, what
100%.
actually happens? Nothing actually happens.
Yeah.
Everybody's so focused in their own worlds. No one gives a shit about me. I'm going to do what I need
Yeah.
to do. And my job is to go to sleep at night standing by all my decisions that day.
Yes, we love it. I love it. I love it. And kind of like going off this confidence, what tips or advice would you share with any woman looking to level up, make more money, or move forward with like business ideas that they're nervous to move forward with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you cannot do anything you're not aware of. So put yourself in spaces where you are more aware of the outcome that you want. What I mean by that is like, if I don't want this, but like, let's say I wanted to be a millionaire. It doesn't matter to me, but let's say that's an easy one to use. I need to be around millionaires. I need to see how they're operating. I need to see how they're making decisions. I need to see what they're investing in, how they're using their time. And I need to see people who have been in my space or in my type of space become one. Because without a level of awareness, you really are, wondering how it's ever going to happen for you. Another one would
Mm-hmm.
be like the example, and I forget the word for it, but I always use this example of like my Goyard bag, my like tote bag. It's right here. So this tote bag, I don't know if you've ever seen a Goyard bag, but I feel like everyone in New
Yes.
York has this freaking bag. Okay. Well, when I moved to New York, I was just a measly little St. Louis girl, and I didn't come from money. I didn't know what a Goyard bag was. I'd never even heard of the brand. I was like, I don't know who that is. And so I start working in the fashion industry. Somebody's wearing that bag to work, and I said, hey, I love that bag. She said, oh, it's just a Goyard bag. And I was like, I don't know what a Goyard bag is. And so I leave the office that same day and I'm on the streets of New York and I see everyone carrying this bag. Like it's everywhere. It really is everywhere. And it was so funny because I thought, it's not like everybody like knew I had that meeting and then raced to the store to go buy a Goyard bag. Like that just didn't happen. But what I do believe happened is that when something is in your awareness, you become more apt to perceive it. So you're able to see more of that thing when you're aware of it. And it's a very big psychology thing, especially in spoken word psychology. So if you go to a therapist and you're talking to a therapist, a lot of some people, some therapists, what they do is they're trying to put things into your line of perception so that you see more of it. So for instance, if I want to be a millionaire, then I need to surround myself with millionaires. If I want to be a better communicator, I need to surround myself with better communicators. If I want to meet somebody, I need to be around people who might introduce me to more friends or more people in that way. So I believe that in order for you to like change as a person or grow as a person or adapt as a person, a big part of it really is, are you putting things in your line of sight? Are you putting things in your level of awareness that you can take with you and start to notice more in the world, right? If I believe, if in my perception is I suck, I'm terrible, I'm a horrific person, I'm going to see instances of that all over my life. But if I believe, and if what's in my line of sight is I'm good to people, I'm kind, I'm creative, I'm resilient, I will see evidence of that as well. So it's all about giving yourself more of what you want to see.
Okay, my last question is,
Next question.
what advice would you give to teenage Ashli and teens today?
If I were to give a piece of advice to teenage Ashli and other teens today, I would tell them that they shouldn't take everything so seriously. Have fun, make experiences the number one goal of your life. Try to meet people and see new things and do new things. Don't make it your size. Don't make it your skin, like whether it has acne or not. Don't make it your clothes. Don't make it the clique you run with. Surround yourself with good people and aim for really incredible adventures and experiences, because at the end of your life, and I'm definitely not at the end of my life, but as 36, I look back on my teenage years and I had so much fun, and all I'm taking from that are my experiences. And I do remember times that I was just so mean to myself when I shouldn't have been. So one of the biggest things I would say to teens today would be kind to yourself, surround yourself with good people, and aim to have as many experiences as you can.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ashli. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I love hearing your perspective as someone who has business sense, all your mental health tips, and all the empowering things you do for women. I love that. And thanks to everyone for listening to the Pretty Little Lifters podcast. I will share Ashli's info in the show notes so you can support her, and I will talk to you next episode. Bye.